Since the early days of the 21st century, we are a people ensnared by mediums of the eyes, an endless string of online video, multi-million-dollar films, and acclaimed television programs. To accompany this, we have promotional advertisements such as posters, ad breaks, and talk show interviews, all catering to the visual experience. Some of the greatest works of splendor have derived from this approach to art, yet it is not the only approach. Something altogether different, audio drama invites its listener to disregard the imposition of the artist's vision on your mind's eye. It melds recipient and cinematographer, patron and artist, image and imagination. The best audio drama is designed so that you truly create while you enjoy. This program is designed to be a celebration of this art, both old and new, and the journey that took place between them. This is a play on sound, the history of audio drama. Chapter 1. In the beginning. Charting a course back to the very seed which germinated into modern audio drama is a tricky exercise. Yet, for the sake of this program, our journey begins in the 1880s, more specifically at the World Expo in Paris in 1881. Clement Ader, famous in the modern era for prototyping various kinds of flying machines, debuted what would become known as the theatrophone. A complex system of electrical transfer. Fundamentally, it worked by taking the sound recordings of 80 or so telephones and, as you would a telephone call, transmitting them. Its purpose was to use this system to record plays and operas, and that's what was shown off at the expo. At the time of its debut, it was not capable of transmitting more than 2 miles, and so the theatre which he used was only across the street. But soon it was engineered so that it became a service which people could pay to listen to, as long as you had a phone. After payment, they would then call up a number and be greeted with an ongoing opera or drama at a local theatre, hence the name. This service was available in cafes, hotels, and to the wealthy, at home. It was clear that the audio nature of these plays did not impact on their enjoyment, yet this service was limited to Europe. In the US, it did not gain traction. Instead, a different invention with a similar audio fixation was taking form: broadcast radio. The rise of the radio in the US could be a program all in itself, but needless to say, it spread like wildfire. Within the space of 5 years from 1920 onwards, from California to New York, radio stations big and small began to broadcast across the airwaves. Initially, it was just talk radio or music. All live performances due to the technology, mind you, but some radio stations began to broadcast musicals and operas using the original cast. You didn't have to pay to listen to your local theatre, you just turned the dial. Soon after broadcasting entire catalogues of others' work, the idea came to make their own. On Pittsburgh's KDKA in 1921, a small comedic piece on school, called A Rural Line on Education, was broadcast. It is the earliest verified audio drama. Other works existed around its time, but some were never reported on, or never recorded, so it can never be said to be the first. Yet this program was indicative of a group of original pieces bubbling up across the United States, and soon Europe as well. Local newspapers would dedicate sections to the listings of audio drama available that evening, as we would have TV listings today. The scene of audio drama was abuzz, and here at home in Ireland, we were also getting into the craze. Ireland's audio drama history starts in the 1930s.
So early radio in Ireland was very unappealing to many people. It was originally called 2RN. That was the call sign for a very popular song called Come Back to Erin. And so when this radio station started in 1926, it was basically trying to emulate some of the British type of radio. So there was a lot of music, Edwardian music, and there was very little in the way of talk radio. And eventually in the 30s, there was a sense that we needed to see the potential of radio. And the first person indeed to see the potential of radio was Eamon de Valera. And Eamon de Valera had wanted to introduce a shortwave radio station, sort of frequency, but unfortunately they went out of power Fianna Fáil. But the money that remained for that went towards what we now call the Radio Éireann Players.
This is Dr. Finola Doyle O'Neill, a broadcast historian and audio dramatist, an expert on everything that broadcasts in Ireland. You'll be hearing her throughout this chapter to give some fascinating insights into early Irish radio. The first English-speaking audio drama company in the world, the Radio Éireann Players, was set up in 1939. In its first year alone, it broadcast over 82 plays. During the many years of their operation, they travelled around Ireland and abroad performing, advertising and discussing audio drama. Most of Ireland's greatest talent in one way or the other was affected by the Players. Frank O'Connor, the acclaimed 20th century writer, was in his early years a freelance writer who worked with the Players on various projects. So ambitious and skillful were these broadcasters and actors that even under extreme technological limitations, they produced some of the greatest audio drama in the world. What was fascinating about the Players outside of their skill was their funding. Much of the plays they performed were sponsored by local businesses or sweet and treat companies, in addition to the state's funding. This meant that the triumphant climax of a play was supplemented with an ad for a local butcher shop, or perhaps even Cadbury's chocolate. This wasn't just true of the Players, however, but was true of all the radio drama emerging during this time in Ireland. In April 1955, the first adventures of the Kennedys of Castleross was broadcast.
Fry Cadbury, makers of Cadbury's Dairy Milk Chocolate, present the Kennedys of Castleross. Episode 1. It's Thursday afternoon in the town of Castleross, and in her shop in Kevin Street, Mrs. Kennedy is talking to a customer who has just rung up.
Yes? What kind? Yes, Mrs. Shaw. Oh, no trouble at all, Mrs. Shaw. But I don't think I'll be able to send them up to you right away. Christy isn't back from school yet, and, well, he usually plays football afterwards. You know how boys his age are. Ashley, I'm sure you have the same problem with yours. No, Brian isn't home from work yet. He won't be until almost 6. But as soon as he comes in, I'll have him run over to you with the sweets. No trouble at all, Mrs. Shaw. Oh, would you excuse me now, Mrs. Shaw? Someone just came in.
The Kennedys of Castleross, believe it or not, was a precursor to what we call the Reardons, which was a later television drama. So the Kennedys of Castleross was about a family. It was the daily gossip, and basically it fed into the Irish psyche and their love of gossip. And it was also came on the heels of a very popular programme called The Foley Family, again, which was a sort of a more mini version of the Kennedys of Castleross. So people literally used to put down all of their tools, so to speak, and listen to the Kennedys of Castleross, because it was very much incisive. It wasn't political. It was basically a social commentary, and it was all about Irish life, and it was a way of keeping the community in touch with one another.
The Kennedys of Castleross, as you heard, was funded as an advertisement for Cadbury's chocolate, but it quickly outgrew its position as an aural billboard into a show which captured the public's attention for over 18 years. After Castleross, shows like Harbour Hotel sated the desire for local gossip and intrigue, but this was not the only dimension to the Emerald Isles audio journey. For now, though, we are taken elsewhere. Chapter 3. The United States. While Ireland was debuting the radio air and Players and exploring the intrigues of a small country town, across the Atlantic a much bigger sight was set. Space. The chances of anything coming from Mars were 1,000,000 to 1, but still, they came. And with them came one of the most influential audio drama pieces of all time, The War of the Worlds.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's, and yet as mortal as his own. We know now that as human beings busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design, man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space. Yet across an immense ethereal gulf, minds that are to our minds as ours are to the beasts in the jungle, intellects, vast, cool, and unsympathetic, regarded this earth with envious eyes and slowly and surely drew their plans against us. In the 39th year of the 20th century came the Great Disillusionment. Near the end of October, Business was better. The war scare was over. More men were back at work. Sales were picking up. On this particular evening, October 30th, the Crosley service estimated that 32 million people were listening in on radios.
For the next 24 hours, not much change in temperature. A slight atmospheric disturbance of undetermined origin is reported over Nova Scotia, causing a low-pressure area to move down rather rapidly over the northeastern states, bringing a forecast of rain accompanied by winds of light gale force. Maximum temperature 66, minimum 48. This weather report comes to you from the Government Weather Bureau. We take you now to the Meridian Room in the Hotel Park Plaza in downtown New York, where you will be entertained by the music of Raymond Raquello and his orchestra.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. From the Meridian Room in the Park Plaza Hotel in New York City, we bring you the music of Raymond Raquello and his orchestra.
Broadcast in October of 1938, The War of the Worlds was based on a H.G. Wells story of the same title. While the original was written as a contemporary, that is to say 1898 account of a Martian invasion of Earth, Howard E. Koch brought the piece to the 1930s by adapting it into a news bulletin-style piece of audio fiction for the Mercury Theatre on air. Unmatched in its style and scope, the only issue with this piece was that if you missed the first few minutes of the broadcast, it very rarely stopped to inform you of its fictitious nature. While the response to this is debated, it is clear that many people were shocked and appalled at these seemingly real events. Orson Welles, the piece's narrator, was lauded as a mastermind for his convincing and somewhat emotionally charged voice acting. What was so deceptive about War of the Worlds was that it blended commonplace radio broadcasts of local bands and interviews with a science fiction story adapted to seem convincing. It is not just that Orson Welles manages in a brief time to fully realize the terror of alien invaders, but that the ancillary performances of those who played bystanders, scientists, the audio production and sound effects teams, and the director were all just as masterful. Yet it was not the first to deceive its viewers. Far back into the genesis of radio, a French radio play called Maremoto placed the listener at the helm of a sinking ship. Even with the limitations that 1924 radio brought with it, it managed to convince fishermen to set out in search for the fictional San Martin, due to the convincing nature of the SOS signals involved. It purposely did not preface the piece with a warning, though many listeners realized quickly what the purpose of this broadcast was. This was because many purposeful mistakes were inserted into the piece to alert any seasoned veteran of the sea to the entertainment value this piece had. While Maremoto preempted War of the Worlds in its trickery, it did not surpass it in its impact. It set the stage for audio fiction in the US into the 1970s, influencing half-hour segments of audio fiction such as 2000 Plus, Dimension X, and others. It was also a source of inspiration for those involved with X-1.
Countdown for blast off. X-5, 4, 3, 2, X-1, fire. From the far horizons of the unknown come tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future, adventures in which you'll live in a million, could be years, on 1,000 maybe worlds. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with Galaxy Science Fiction Magazine, presents
X minus 1.
Taking stories from fiction writers such as Isaac Asimov, Ray Bradbury, and Philip K. Dick, it was a showcase of talent, both written and heard. First broadcast in April of 1955, it ran for 126 episodes, but If you watch some of the most famous science fiction programs of the time and today, you can see some clever homages to this landmark collection of audio fiction. Though impressive, the startling tales of time and space were not the only kids on the block in this America. Another phenomenon, the investigative mystery, was also very prominent. Our friend Orson Welles had debuted The Shadow in the 1930s, reminding us that the weed of crime bears bitter fruit, crime does not pay, and that the shadow knows. By the 1950s, the genre was packed with shows like The 21st Precinct, Martin Caine, Private Eye, and perhaps recognizable to us today based on its adaptation to film, The Green Hornet. The accompanying arm of the law, the judicial system, was also represented with shows like District Attorney. Both startling and fascinating, these programs were not created in a vacuum. The science fiction was a projection of the United States' rapidly advancing technology during the Cold War, and one could say it was better to focus on a hero keeping your local community safe, rather than focus on a perhaps impending nuclear holocaust. Still, this spy versus spy culture which was developing did not skirt around the medium of audio drama.
I was a communist for the FBI. Starring Dana Andrews in an exciting tale of danger and I was a communist for the FBI. Many of the incidents in the story you're about to hear are based on the actual records and authentic experiences of Matt Cvetic, who for 9 fantastic years lived as a communist for the FBI. Here is our star, Dana Andrews, as Matt Cvetic.
To use a simile, communism is like a time bomb, innocent enough on the surface, just a box. It isn't until you get inside that you find the dynamite intended to blow you apart. I know because for 9 years I was inside the party. I met the red dynamite on its own terms, and one thing I found out while working as an undercover man, you, mister, yes, and you too, lady, you're target for that red the explosion that was my job to help prevent.
In a moment, listen to Dana Andrews as Matt Cvetic, Undercover Man.
Shows like I Was a Communist for the FBI, broadcast in 1952, showed that even on radio, one could not escape the fear of the Reds. To accompany the atomic age in the nuclear family, we had the clandestine and the creepy. The US's zeitgeist of the time was one packed with a fascination of right and wrong, the nuclear bomb, and the chance to escape it all among the stars. Chapter 4. Throughout the World. Although the United States was perhaps at the crest of the wave of audio drama between the 1930s and 1960s, it was not the entire wave. In Japan, the oral reality had been well explored since the first drama, Kirihitaha, was broadcast in 1925. The Japanese public broadcaster NHK even set up a specialized radio drama company which continues to broadcast today. During the 1950s, acclaimed writers such as Shinichiro Nakamura used the medium of sound to tell stories of war, heartbreak, sadness, and love. These would later be translated and broadcast in Europe because of their quality. That isn't to say that Europe never created anything of its own. In Britain, the BBC founded its own radio drama company and consulted the radio-aired players when it did so. While more focused on audio documentaries than dramas, shows like The Archers and Shadow of the Swastika captured the feelings of pre- and post-war Britain and bottled them into 30 minutes. Pathos across the airwaves. As the years progressed, the BBC would invest heavily in the emerging wave of writers and talent. For example, Samuel Beckett's All That Fall follows the tale of Maddie Rooney, an old, pained Irish woman who speaks her mind. You cannot help but feel a twinge of Ulysses as you meet the commonplace Irish folk of her town, through the strange madness of sounds and smells which are conveyed through her mind. It speaks to the sensibilities of country life, and is both beautiful and melancholic. It won awards for its subversive nature, though it is claimed by some that it makes no sense at all. This approach by the BBC allowed for the development of new and radically different voices in the oral scene. This includes a prominent giant in British popular culture, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
this is the story of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, perhaps the most remarkable, certainly the most successful book ever to come out of the great publishing corporations of Ursa Minor. More popular than the Celestial Home Care Omnibus, better selling than 53 More Things to Do in Zero Gravity, and more controversial than Ulan Kalufid's trilogy of philosophical blockbusters, Where God Went Wrong, Some More of God's Greatest Mistakes, and Who Is This God Person Anyway? And in many of the more relaxed civilizations on the outer eastern rim of the galaxy, The Hitchhiker's Guide has already supplanted the great Encyclopedia Galactica as the standard repository of all knowledge and wisdom, because although it has many omissions, contains much that is apocryphal, or at least wildly inaccurate, it scores over the older, more pedestrian work in two important ways. First, it is slightly cheaper, and second, it has the words "Don't Panic" inscribed in large, friendly letters on the cover. To tell the story of the book, it's best to tell the story of some of the minds behind it. A human from the planet Earth was one of them, though as our story opens, he no more knows his destiny than a tea leaf knows the history of the East India Company. His name is Arthur Dent. He is a 6-foot-tall ape descendant, and someone is trying to drive a bypass through his home.
Come off it, Mr. Dent. You can't win, you know. Look, there's no point in lying down in the path of progress.
I've gone off the idea of progress. It's overrated.
But you must realise that you can't lie in front of the bulldozers indefinitely.
I'm game. We'll see who rusts first.
I'm afraid you're going to have to accept it. This bypass has got to be built, and it is going to be built. Nothing you can say or do...
Why has it got to be built?
What do you mean? Why has it got to be built? It is a bypass. You've got to build bypasses.
Didn't anyone consider the alternatives?
There aren't any alternatives. Look, you are quite entitled to make any suggestions or protests at the appropriate time.
Appropriate time?
Yes.
The first I knew about it was when a workman arrived at the door yesterday.
Oh.
I asked him if he'd come to clean the windows, and he said he'd come to demolish the house. He didn't tell me straight away, of course. No. First he wiped a couple of windows and charged me a £5. Then he told me...
But, Mr. Dent, the plans have been available in the planning office for the last 9 months.
Yes. I went round to find them yesterday afternoon. You hadn't exactly gone out of your way to call much attention to them, had you? I mean, like actually telling anybody or anything?
The plans were on display.
And how many average members of the public are in the habit of casually dropping around at the local planning office of an evening? It's not exactly a noted social venue, is it? And even if you had popped in on the off chance that some raving bureaucrat wanted to knock your house down, the plans weren't immediately obvious to the eye, were they?
That depends where you were looking.
I eventually had to go down to the cellar.
That's the display department.
With a torch.
The lights had probably gone.
So had the stairs.
Well, you found the notice, didn't you?
Yes. It was on display in the bottom of a locked filing cabinet, stuck in a...
Zany and insane by all measures. In 1978, 6 fits or episodes of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy were released into the wild. The reaction was instant. Audiences loved it. Critics thought it was okay, as critics tend to do, and the BBC commissioned 6 more fits. They were called fits because of Adam's love of Lewis Carroll and his poem, The Hunting of the Snark. This was not to be the last we would hear of the Hitchhiker's Guide. Alongside the rest of Europe, audio drama was both produced and, as I've said before, imported. After the majority of public theatres were destroyed in bombings during the Second World War, drama in Germany was kept alive with shows from the United States and from inside its smouldering borders, assisting the country in remembering and rebuilding. In Southeast Asia, the Vivit Bharti station began broadcasting in 1957. It produced small dramatic and comedic skits through many of its programs, including Hawa Mahal, which still runs today. It exists as the longest-running terrestrial entertainment program in the region. It is clear that the phenomenon of audio drama was very much here to stay, not just in the hub of Western civilization, but throughout the vibrant and breathtaking cultures of the world. Chapter 5. The Dawn of the Web and the Modern Age. We jump now from the 1970s to a time far past the fall of the Berlin Wall, with the internet bringing us an endless source of entertainment from bingeable television programs to vloggers. Is there a place for such a limited yet expansive art form? Do people still listen to audio drama? The answer to both of those questions is a resounding yes. Modern audio fiction exists in two forms. State broadcasters such as 2RN, now called Radio 1, its partner Radio 2, and so on, and the BBC still produce audio drama for a dedicated listener base. They source them from aspiring writers or established theatre masterminds and play them perhaps between talk radio slots and music shows. They are certainly not a priority anymore. It is difficult to sell advertisement slots to fill a 45-second interlude. Any longer and you risk destroying the immersion you have created. This traditional style of audio drama is done now only by the most dedicated or successful of creators for a mostly older audience. But another area exists which has revived the skill of audio drama and even improved upon it. This is the internet. The internet has given rise to a new breed of audio dramatist. Unlike those of yesteryear, these are not funded by a state or a show on a local radio station, nor perhaps even financially dependent on their product. Modern audio fiction can be characterized by the passion with which it is made, the ubiquity of the technology required to make a compelling audio drama, namely a modern smartphone, a quiet room, willing participants and a computer, means that now, more than ever, those passionate about audio drama can simply make it. No better an example of this can be seen than in the first audio drama to be recorded through the medium of email. The early 2000s was a time of great change across the world. Explosive economic development and new technology fused with a now ever-communicating population. Wars and terrorist attacks entered the zeitgeist as phantoms from a time long forgotten and were lodged beside reasons to buy a new car or a new house. This left the time feeling fearful, zany, and somewhat commercialized. To capture this would be difficult, yet it was done in the form of the first feature-length audio drama film, Not from Space.
A Borges audio movie. Earth and Mars. Two planets very close, both have people living on them. Each unaware that the other populations exist. This is the day when both of those cultures meet. We join Earth during the year 2000. In the economic boom, advanced technology is prospering, and everyone is focused on themselves.
We must guard against.
Have a copy of World/Radio with J. Charles.
The sponsors pay us. World/Radio.
Military, industrial.
Bill Gates is going to be giving away free computers to foreigners able to take from your
combination endanger our liberties or democratic.
California. Hi, how you doing this morning?
Yeah, I hope that Bill Gates changes his mind because with all of these
rise of misplaced power exists.
I think we should just put up a big wall. I think we should put a wall around the whole country.
Absolutely. I like that idea. Hey, I'll help you build it even.
It's a morning cup of coffee and Bill Gates giving away free computers to foreigners, taking your calls, getting your opinions about this. Good morning, Mike.
Hi, Jay. Hi, Sammy.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm doing fine.
Now, do you really mean that this morning?
No, I don't.
What do you think of Bill Gates?
Well, I think that Bill Gates is an evil imperialist, and he wants to take over the world. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Okay, next caller.
Well, that was efficient.
Next caller is Janice from Mississippi. How you doing this morning?
I'm fine.
And what do you think about giving away free computers to foreigners?
Oh, I think it's horrible. Why isn't he giving us free computers?
Hey, Janice, do you think foreigners deserve to get free computers just for coming into the United States?
Well, the rich people are the ones that come over here anyway. Why do they need free stuff?
Absolutely. See, everyone agrees with me on this one, Jay.
Sammy's going to be building a big wall around the entire country, so she's not going to be here tomorrow.
No, we can do it on our show tomorrow. We can sell sponsors. It'd be great.
Hey, Sammy, do you have a computer?
Yes, I do.
How can you afford to pay for it with this job?
lottery tickets.
Next call is from Minnesota.
Hey, guys. I just want to say I'm changing my citizenship to Canada.
There you go.
Then I'm going to move back in and get my free computer.
Morning cup of coffee with J. Charles and Sammy, and number is 747-WSR. So what happens if you build this wall and they use some kind of parachutes to get in? They just jump over.
Well, then we could put a big net in the sky.
And what about aliens from another planet?
We've already got one of those right here.
First day broadcasting across the entire world, and Bill Gates just happens to be giving away free computers to new citizens. Taking your calls, getting your opinion, 747-WSR. Morning cup of coffee will be right back.
This is World/Radio.
You look horrible. Look at those clothes. It's time for you to go to J.C. Nichols and pick out some shirts and pants that people can stand to look at. J.C. Nichols is now having a half-price sale just so we can get you in here to find some better clothes. I mean, come on. Who are you trying to kid? Jeez.
J.C. Nichols.
J.C. Nichols. Put something else on.
If there's anything we can do to make your vacation plans more difficult, just let us know at Menace Airlines.
It's the Dairy Cola Lines of Fun giveaway.
Produced for XM Satellite Radio in 2003, Not From Space was fundamentally different from what came before. Satirizing the commercial nature of radio, it was recorded by people transferring voice lines through email, rather than developed in a single studio. Embracing the technology of the time, it manages to paint a scarily convincing picture, and then devolves into utter chaos. It was such a landmark piece of fiction that it is currently being turned into a feature-length film of the visual variety. It even makes some predictions in jest which seem to have manifested themselves, but I'll leave the discovery of those to you. Yet the exploits of Dairy Cola and Bill Gates constitute just one adventure, and modern audio fiction lives in a world even more ripe for homegrown audible adventures. Shows like Wolf 359, the tale of the communications officer on a space station on a remote star, or The Far Meridian, the adventures of an agoraphobic girl and her magical lighthouse, are just pixels in a painting ever growing. Supply is well and truly massive and ever expanding to meet demand. It is this demand that led to the foundation of Radio Drama Revival. A well-known voice in the audio drama community, Radio Drama Revival is a weekly podcast which shows off contemporary audio drama and spreads the word of this beautiful medium. Founded in 2007, Radio Drama Revival continues its mission to showcase the diversity and vitality of modern audio fiction. Less clip show and more showcase, the community fostered around this program receives each new episode, and thus new audio drama, with vigour. Long may it continue. While the scope of this drama explosion is massive, sometimes among the diamonds you find something which takes a well-worn concept and imbues it with something new. Something was missing in the world of audio drama, a staple of the theatre that had entertained and engaged audiences for a lifetime. The musical is a long-running tradition which asks the question, what doesn't sound better as a song? The answer, of course, is nothing. The breakout audio drama musical, 36 Questions, follows the story in 3 parts of a couple who have split and must rediscover each other.
One thing, I came out here for one thing, and that little bitty one thing was to forget about you. But I guess I've learned something, that there's never really one thing, 'cause pretty quickly one thing evolves into 2 or 3 or more. For example, see the light in the hallway? It was always flickering. Ever since I was little, it was always flickering. After 3 days here, it was unbearable. My list grew. 2, fix the light bulb, and 1, forget about you. Drove to town, bought a bulb, one of those new LEDs, brought it home, put it in, but the wires weren't connecting. Suddenly they went on the fritz. My list grew. 3, rewire the ceiling, 2, fix the light bulb, and 1, forget about you. So I went to the attic, and to my utmost delight, there it is, black mold killing us slowly each night. And I feel it's my duty to remove it. My list grew: 4, kill the black mold; 3, rewire the ceiling; 2, fix the light bulb; and 1, forget about you.
Yeah, but my one thing is
I'm
really
not done.
just...
See the tarp in the hallway? That used to be a gallery wall. Lots of pictures, super classy. Sad I had to make the call, but in scouring for mold, I had to take the place apart. Because sometimes to solve a problem, you follow it back to the start.
Oh, who's that?
No one. It just does that when it rains. When I tried to rebuild the wall that I'd taken down, I discovered 2 holes burrowed right into the ground. And I didn't have the heart to kill them, so my list grew. But then the cement that I found to fill in the gaping holes wasn't good. It didn't stick. Apparently cement can get old. In trying to fix one thing, I made everything worse. My list grew: 9, buy new cement; 8, take care of this duck I found; 7, clean out the pipes for the bathroom and the kitchen; 6, rebuild the wall; 5, keep out the pest; 4, kill the black mold; 3, rewire the ceiling; 2, fix the light bulb; and 1, forget about you.
I think it's lovely to see you fix up this old house, because you want it to be nice for your family. But I think maybe you're obsessing over things you can't control, hoping to control your feelings for...
What? No.
So
These things
you
need to get done. Okay.
Here.
Okay. Just stop moving towards me. Just stay on your side of the room, okay, so we can talk this out. No, listen.
Was to forget about
listen,
me.
if my moms are going to be so nice to have me out here
Well,
and
all I
respect
am
my need to be alone during this really
is for
insane,
you to
crazy,
do the
impossible time of my
first
life, the absolute
which
least
could
I can do
also
is,
be
you know,
the
just go
last
around and destroy their house.
After tonight, you'll never hear from me again, if that's what you want. Everything we need to fix our marriage is inside this envelope. I'm asking for one chance.
We'll do this one thing. It is the first thing we're doing together since you
I found out you were not who I thought you were.
We'll do this one thing. It could be the last thing.
With stunning vocal talent and a compelling story, 36 Questions has set the standard of audio drama musicals going forward and is a pleasure to listen to. Chapter 6, Going Forward. So where does this leave us? Audio fiction has come a long way from the World Expo of 1881, but where can it go? The answer is simple: wherever the aspiring minds of audio dramatists throughout the world wish it to. The amazing thing about this medium is that you are limited only by what you can imagine. A tapped tin can constitute alien footsteps, a rolled bottle of water the preparation of cannons on a man of war. By depriving the listener of sight, you allow them to see more than even the most vivid picture could show. Although audio drama is very much produced without lighting in mind, I can safely say that the future of this listened reality is very bright. Thank you for listening.